Good afternoon. So my name is Nadav Ochman. I'm the Associate Director of Gray Area, San Francisco's only and oldest center for art, technology, and society. And back a few months ago, back in April, a few of us gathered here in Linz in a small room to review more than 800 proposals that were submitted to this year's STARTS Prize. Today, all working on the intersection of art, technology, and science. And today, I'm thrilled to present the two grand winners for this year's STARTS Prize and 8 honorary mentions selected by the jury this year. So we will get right to it. And our first speakers are Mar Santamaria and Pablo Martinez of the group 300 Kilometers, who won the Grand Prize for Innovative Collaboration, awarded for innovative collaboration between industry or technology and the arts that open new pathways for innovation. 300 Kilometers explores the potential of data and new computation paradigms to extract relevant information with the aim to improve urban planning and decision-making. Their interdisciplinary team works in the fields of urban analysis, cartography, urban planning, development of digital tools, and digital humanities. Their winning project, Ciutat Vea's Land Use Plan, is a legal document that aims to regulate economic activity in Barcelona city center. It proposes a different way of making urban planning based on data technologies and citizen participation. So, Mar and Pablo, please.
Thank you. Sí, you go on. See? Yeah? Can you see a yellow screen? Yeah? Yeah? Great. Thank you. We are really happy to be with all of you today. It's a really great honor to receive this prize from STARS Prize and Ars Electronica. And let me start saying that in Barcelona, citizens, we are really lucky. We have a really beautiful city, especially in the city center. We have great monuments, we have culture, we have main museums, we have a history going on for so many years. It is also the district and the place where new arrival happens in the city. So this is a great city center, and citizens are really lucky. But at the same time, these same citizens, they are really unlucky. In the last years, we are suffering from over-tourism in the city. Due to this touristification that we can see in our streets, caused by peer-to-peer apartments, by low cost, this city center is no longer livable. I think the images speak from themselves. You need to know that in Barcelona we are 1.5 million and we receive every year 30 million of visitors. And of course, in this central district, the economic activity is displacing everyday activities related to citizens to these activities related to the economy of visitors. Also, it happens that this Ciutat Vella, this city center, has always been the place of Barcelona with more activity. And especially in the last years, this activity is related to nocturnal leisure, to bars, to restaurants, to party. So we are in this crossroad, in this situation where all this over-tourism, all this activity is causing a great pressure in public space, and a great pressure that actually is resulting into a huge conflict related to noise. So people no longer can sleep at night. Children have to be inside their homes with the windows closed, not to listen to this noise. people need to have sleepers to sleep at night. So we have a really important problem with the noise in the city. That's the point of start of the project. So what have we done with this land use plan of Ciutat Vella? We mix apparently different things, no? Although we have been told that they were different things, such as data technology and citizen participation to draft a plan, which their main objective is to preserve the quality of life in the city and to make possible the coexistence between the economic activity and this quality of life. So that means that we are working, and here I'm going to use a little bit of urban planning jargon, okay? We have been working with a legal framework that starts in 92 with the Olympic Games, and with the directive of services that we have in Europe that says that there is a free establishment of activity, so anyone is free to establish an activity, but there is an exception related to urban planning. And if you are able to demonstrate that you are altering the quality of life, the urban environment, there is an exception in this directive. So, first step of the project is to demonstrate that this impact is actually existing in the city and that we are altering this quality of life of citizens. So to do so, we were using this data technology. So that means that the first step of the project is to build an argumentary, a storytelling based on data, on open data portals, on all the big data that we were able to grab, on public infrastructure of data that the city of Barcelona has been having for years. So that means that we were using data from social networks, we were using data from the same activities, we were using data from the Wi-Fi, public Wi-Fi of the city, but also data of the police complaints, which is, you can imagine, it's really sensible data. With all of that, we were able to demonstrate that, of course, there is this impact. At the same time, the Public Agency of Health of Barcelona, this is not our work alone, but a work of a huge team of professionals from different disciplines of science, art, and technology, were drafting also a diagnosis that demonstrates that actually in the city of Barcelona, actually in the central district of Barcelona, every sound meter is about 55 decibels. That means that the World Health Organization says that above these 55 decibels, you start having really important health issues related to insomnia, related to myocardial pathologies, related to psychiatric disorders. So you can imagine we are in a really, really stress point in the city. And what was important in this process is that we have all this data, but we need citizens to give value, to give meaning to this data, to this more technical process. And these citizens were involved either in these public health studies. You have read some of the testimonials of these interviews, but of course we had a citizen participation process that inform the data, give value to all this data. Citizen participation that was on meetings, but also was running on the new Barcelona digital participation platform. Here, all the proposals that the citizens themselves make about how they were imagining this future of the district. So this is a scenario where we were combining these data technologies with this citizen participation. So you can imagine that we were using tons of data. So it's kind of a parametric regulation. And we need to simulate which were these future scenarios. That was really a huge effort of putting together citizens, politicians, technicians, and we need to give a projection on what was the result of this regulation we were making. So basically, to sum up, it's kind of difficult because Pablo and I normally talk, both of us, and I'm trying to give him some instructions, and it's really complicated to look at you, give instructions, all the papers. But as I was saying, to sum up, what we do was this huge diagnosis of the impacts using data. We contrast this with citizen participation. We simulate the plan. We simulate the scenarios of the future, and to do what? To do a regulation that actually, it's thinner, it's really thin, it's like 15 pages, okay, that any citizen can understand. That's important. When you make a regulation, that it's intent to be used for citizens that want to open, for example, a bakery, they need to understand. So it's something that is really, really, really thin, and that we want, of course, to preserve this quality of life, but also we want to foster economic activity in the city center. So basically, to make it really simple for humans, not planners, we divide the activities in two big groups, understanding that these nocturnal activities that were causing all these health problems need to be restricted, because in certain areas we have more than 80 bars in 100 square meters, so you can imagine the pressure that it means, okay? And we have another group of activities that, of course, we wanted to control, we wanted to understand where they need to be placed, but with a very, with an easy way of doing things. So this division was quite important. Then also we rethink the same idea of zoning. We urban planners love to make zones of things and saying that this zone needs to be different than this other zone. But in this case, as we were using these precise, 5 minutes? As we were using these precise analysis tools, our regulation can be applied plot by plot. So that means that we understand that every corner of Ciutat Vella have different conditions in demographic, socioeconomic, morphological, and behavioral aspects. So we can make a regulation that goes plot by plot, so we eliminate this idea of the zoning. Then also we understand a really important thing, that there are certain areas that are more vulnerable than others. Here we have the lower rents in the city, the poorest quality of construction, so we need to protect these people from a noisy bar and people at 3 in the morning laughing and chatting in the street. And in the end, we also rethink the parameters and the densities of this establishment to make this environment safer and livable. So, once we make the process, once we make this diagnosis, this is citizen participation, we make the proposal, this plan goes on a public consultation process. So that means that every citizen, every company, even the big lobbies, the individuals, public parties, they can propose modification to this plan. And that means we need to read tons of paper, okay? And of course, incorporate in the planning all this feedback from citizenship and other sectors. And this is approved, and I love this photograph, in the municipal plenary with a very tense session of the party saying, okay, we want this law to go on. So this law, this legal master plan has been running now for 1.5 years, safely for the moment. We are not in court. The previous plans were cancelled by a judge, but now I think we have a strong argument. We have this public health argument, which is really strong, I hope, in the future. But the most important thing, or the most important innovation of this plan, and we believe this is the path to follow, is this collaboration between data technologies that we have in the city, this public infrastructure of sensors, of the citizens, of course, a large group of different professionals, and it's important, with cross-disciplinary ideas and skills, and then, of course, computation, massive data, predictive models, machine learning, okay, and all these data technologies. We believe, and that we strongly believe, being these days at Ars Electronica, and I think it's a strong connection with Elias' project, that this is a new way of making urban planning, full by, of course, data technologies, but informed with citizens, which is an alternative of other types of cities that actually big tech corporations are proposing us in Toronto with Sidewall Labs. It's a new way, or a different way, an alternative way, the way that challenges all us, planners, politicians, artists, scientists, to do different. Closing remark, we as urban planners, we are used to listen among our colleagues of a sentence. Not only we are on a mid-age crisis, we said, or we often listen, that urban planning is in a huge crisis. And we strongly believe that it's not about the tools we were using, but it's because we forget how to imagine futures. So we wanted to especially thank Ars Electronica for inspiring us again to think on better and strong futures. Thank you.
Thank you, Mara and Pablo, for this important project. And we'll get a chance later for a short Q&A, so prepare your questions. Our second presentation is by Bjorn Kaumann and Tor Knudsen, who won the Grand Prize for Artistic Exploration, awarded for artistic exploration and artworks where appropriation by the arts has a strong potential to influence or alter the use, deployment, or perception of technology. Bjorn Kaumann and Tor Knudsen are two interaction designers from Denmark. As a daily task, Bjorn works as a Telart in Amsterdam, where he designs interactive exhibitions, while Tor works as a UX designer at Top Innovation in Design in Malmö. 1 year ago, they decided to find a way to hack voice-controlled home assistants. The result is called Project Alias, and they describe it as a teachable parasite. Tor and Bjorn, please.
Here you go. The presentations.
It's here. Yeah.
Oh. How do you use this? I don't know. All right, I think we're set. Thanks for having us. Me and Bjorn would like to give you all this presentation that we call A Parasite for the Civilian Age. And it's about this project, Project Alias, that we started 1 year ago. So, what is Alias? Project Alias is this weird mushroom-looking thing that you can see on top of an Amazon Alexa and a Google Home. And what it does is that when you place it on top, it gives you new ways of controlling your home assistant, both when it comes to customization of wake words, but also privacy. So how it actually works is that you can rename your home assistant through Alias. So Alias becomes this communication gate between you and the home assistant. And by giving it a new name, for example, Elias or Gandalf or Pancake, I mean, you choose, you can use that word to communicate with Home Assistant, as the image here applies. But when you're not using your Home Assistant, Alias will make sure to paralyze your Home Assistant by feeding it with white noise constantly, so it won't hear you until you wake Alias up, and Alias gently whispers, "Okay, Google," in order to wake it up. And from there you can use it as you normally would. So why we created Project Alias was because we see, we think it's a problem at least, with how we occupy our homes with more and more smart home products, digital products that we have a data exchange with. We give it some input and we get a service, but as soon as our inputs become data, we don't really know what happens to it, or at least we don't know the whole story. There's a lot of black boxing, and we think that the relation that we have with these products should be more open, and we should feel more in control. One example is, for example, some very cheap smart TVs that you can buy, of course. But what you might not know if you don't read carefully is that those smart TVs record you, record your voice, and actually use that to earn the money instead of the purchase that you did in the shop. We also, in the last year or so, have seen a lot of articles around home assistants and how a weird mistake happened and a lot of recordings ended up somewhere where it shouldn't be. And all this fuss creates a lot of mistrust to some of these big companies that are behind these products that we buy and put into our home. And that was kind of the motivation to do Project Alias. And we had this funny inspiration source of nature that Björn will talk a bit more about now.
Yeah. As many of our projects, we try to look back in nature and see, well, we as humans like to connect and find a reason that makes sense. And we looked at viruses and fungi and how these ecosystems, and especially jungles, are sometimes regulated by cordyceps. So this ant you see here, also sometimes known as the zombie ant, is right now infected by cordyceps. And that happens when a species in a jungle gets too powerful or has too much area. We thought it was a quite beautiful analogy because when the ant gets too powerful, it has a higher chance of getting affected. And therefore this fungi or cordyceps actually regulates the population and makes it balance in the ecosystem. And we thought that as being these companies that are getting very, very huge and very powerful, and could we make a fungi or parasite that could take over some of these devices and grow from within and inspire this ideology that we were trying to communicate. So with this idea in mind, with fungi and mushrooms, we tried to actually grow some ourselves. We had a Google Home that we were already frustrated about, and we didn't care if it got dirty. Actually growing some real mushrooms on top, and with this little prototype inside, because we thought it's the story that mattered. It was never really about the product. We wanted to communicate this idea that we can hack it in a different way. These prototypes, well, this one was of course very unpractical because we are also makers and are very much active in the open source community. So we wanted this to be something we could share with everyone and make easy to replicate and make. So real mushrooms wasn't really feasible. So we started looking at 3D printing, and could we have the same kind of aesthetic and mushroomy like structure, but with a simple 3D print that you can print at home. We had many ideas, and of course, because of the possibilities, you can go quite nuts with big structures, but we kept them simple because it had to be reproduced. And on the right there, you see the first prototype that then has a Raspberry Pi, that's the brain, and some speakers that communicates to the Google Home. That was all sitting inside. And this is the final version. So just as you see in our exhibit, it's this stylish looking white, I almost want to say marshmallow sitting on top. We were trying to play with the idea that it should look as real as possible. It should feel like it's something you could buy in a shop, because that's what makes the whole idea and the progression come to life, and it provocates you because it feels real, but it isn't. And it's just slits on top and works like a product. It has an app and it's pretty easy to use.
Yeah. So I can explain a bit how it actually works, our alias. So as you see on this diagram, it is a Raspberry Pi with a microphone and 2 speakers that you place on top. And as you also saw in this picture, the 2 speakers of alias will cover the microphones of the Home Assistant perfectly. And what happens from there is shown by this diagram, that if alias hears its new name that you taught it, it will turn off the noise it plays constantly and say the wake word, and if not, it will just play noise. And you're interfacing with alias through a browser, so when you turn alias on, it will create its own network, its own hotspot that you connect to with your phone. So alias is never connected to the internet. And from there you can record a new wake word by giving it examples, by recording. Yeah, and as Björn also went into, we decided to make this project open source because we wanted to be, of course, completely transparent, so you can go and look how it actually works and what happens with this sound input you give to it. And of course also to make it as a way to spread the virus, so to speak, to make it possible for others to make it and try it out. And we think that's a very important part of the values we had in mind when we created Project Alias. And now we would like to show you a small project video with it of the project.
What's this thing called again?
An alias.
Alias, yeah. What would I like to call my alias?
So, I'm gonna rename you Doris.
Okay, Google. Can I change your name?
Sorry, my name is a code you can't break.
Hey, PT. Hey, PT.
Now it's the training. Doris?
It was
It's
already.
working.
Yeah.
Hello, Doris?
Hello.
Marvin. Are you there?
I'm here. What can I do for you?
It works.
Hey Milkshake, find a lentil salad recipe.
Okay, I've got a recipe called Sexy Lentil Salad from Recipe Chinese. This recipe serves 4 and takes about...
When I put this on, it won't listen to me. Okay, Google. Can I change your name?
Hey, PT. Can you read me a book?
It looks like there aren't any audiobooks.
Hey, ET. That also worked. Where are we?
Where are we by not waving? Sure. Playing on Spotify.
Hey, PT. Stop.
Marvin, what is the answer to life, the universe, and everything?
The answer to life, the universe, and everything is 42.
Doris, where is Nemo?
Right now in Vesper Township, United States, it's -6 degrees Celsius with partly cloudy skies. Today's forecast has partly sunny weather.
To set up your alias, open the app and think of a name or even sound you want to activate your smart device with. Simply hold record while saying the new name 4 times. Alias, 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 alias. Now press train and wait a few seconds while alias is learning its new name. Okay. Alias, what time is it?
8:39.
Okay, Google, what time is it? You see, alias has paralyzed your device and only allows it to listen when you use its new name. What would you call it? So that was a fun little experiment we had, showing it to our friends and giving it around. But obviously you can see in the video it's not perfect. And neither is the interaction with the Google Home currently either. And we do move in the space of, is it really useful or is it really ridiculous? And we think in an ideal world this product shouldn't even exist. There's no need for an alias. There's no need that we start to put a second device on our already bought device. Many tell us, well, just don't buy it in the first place, and yes, that's a solution. But I think going forward, we want to show a different future, and this is what Alias is really about. We want to show that these products don't need to, have a certain behavior patterns and steer a certain lifestyle, that this smart life and smart home that we buy into. We think there's an alternative way of these products, really focusing on the individual and the human aspects. Just really question: is it smart? Is it what we want?
Yeah, I guess that's it.
Thank you guys for this extraordinary project. It really pushes the boundaries of our agency as users of technology. We will have a chance for a short Q&A in a bit. I would like to now move into the honorary mention. We have 8 honorary mentions this year that the jury really believe capture the concerns and solutions by artists and designers for this year's competition. Our first project is This Is Grown by Jen Keen, who really successfully transformed her frustration with plastic pollution into an actionable idea for reducing the amount of plastic waste. Using new tools to manipulate the natural growth process, she has developed a new form of textile creation that she calls microbial weaving. Keen's multidisciplinary collaboration with biology, biomaterial science, and mechanical engineering offers the biofabrication technology could become a leading paradigm in 21st century fabrication, combining technological ability with environmental responsibility in a unique way. This Is Grown allows us not only to imagine, but also to shape the future of production. Our second project, called SLAP, See Like a Pony, and to really understand the importance of this project, I would like us all to imagine we are a car. How do we perceive and preempt what another car on the road is going to do? Now, what if the car, you guys, and the other car are autonomous cars? By mounting cameras on herself and her horses, Engelhardt is able to trace the reactions of her horses as they wander around and encounter obstacles. In observing the positioning of horses' ears and nuances in their physical nudges, Engelhardt was able to reveal clear ways of communication that help shape our understanding of the role of empathy between horse and rider when navigating through space, and how this might be applied to emergent autonomous vehicles technologies. Our third project, called Anatomy of AI System, a collaboration between Kate Crawford and Vladan Joler, really starts with a question. What are the real costs of technological systems, be they social, environmental, economic, or political, and how can we make it visible? Anatomy of AI uses the example of Amazon Echo, and it's a common thread today in our session, to show the countless components and factors behind the production of an artificial intelligence device that go way beyond the technical aspect of data modeling, hardware, servers, and networks, and extend into questions around capital, physical labor, and even the natural world. And I really recommend that you go see the actual project at the center, the Ars Electronica Center, later on if you have time. Our next project, called Ars Electronica Indigena, really demonstrate best practices for creative capacity building in rural indigenous communities. The project brings to attention the cultural symbols and creative outputs of 8 indigenous villages in the Brazilian state of Bahia through supporting their close collaborations with artists from Brazil, Bolivia, and the UK. By incorporating digital tools into new creative formats, the residents situate electronic art as a compelling medium for collaborative creative processes and propose the crucial role indigenous communities can and should play in the continued development of the global technological ecosystem. The project, The Murder of Pavlos Fyssas by Forensic Architecture, used an interdisciplinary artistic approach and a vast partnership between researchers, scientists, video artists, and institutional partners to create video-based evidence of the role of the Greek political party, Golden Dawn, in 2013 murder of the Greek anti-fascist rapper Pavlos Fyssas. By revealing Golden Dawn's abuse of human rights by means of creating counter-narratives to prevailing authoritative understandings of investigated events, the project encourages an increase in public dialogue on nationalism, immigration, and politics. The project BLP 2000 Blacklist Printer ask us to consider a plausible biotechnical future in which an unofficial blacklist of potentially harmful and forbidden DNA sequences has been created and shared among companies for biosecurity reasons. The output of this project is a never-ending printing machine that stores and chronicles DNA sequences that companies might label as harmful and forbidden. The next selected project for the honorary mention is SimCath, which is a simulation unit which is used for training medical professionals in cardiological surgical procedures. Bringing her artistic practice as a multimedia artist and with experience in theater design to the field of medicine, Salome developed an immersive environment that resembled a theater stage that really mimicked the real surgical environment. This scenographic environment was then used for simulation training for surgeons, creating a learning environment that more accurately mimics the real high-stakes situation of invasive procedures than traditionally very dry classroom. Our last project that was selected for the honorary mention is Biocomputer Rhythms. Miranda's project, together with a professional musician. The resulting duet between the mold computer and the pianist is unpredictable and suggests a new kind of creation of a machine that is, in a sense, creative. The work really extends the range of existing interactions between human and computers and offers a speculative creative application that is perhaps more aligned with human tendencies to improvise, hesitate, and contrive. And with this note, speculating a more humanized technological future, I would like our speakers, the winners of the grand prizes for this year, to come back on stage for a short Q&A session. Please. So this session is for you if you have any questions. If not, I can go ahead by myself.
Hello, I'm interested in the Barcelona project. It's very impressive how you used this new way of dealing with data. And I'm interested whether you think it's really a game changer and how it interacted between the participative process and this data use.
Tricky question.
So I think that when you do urban planning, normally you only have a topographical map and a map of plots. This is the usual reality when you are doing urban planning. So for us, having data is a possibility to inform better, no? What happens in the city, not only understand the morphology, understand behaviors. When you use this data, is when you need the citizens. If you only take data and you only read the data and you put rows and you put numbers without trying to understand and calibrate this machine with the opinions, with the interaction of the citizens, then the data doesn't explain nothing. It's in this moment, no, when you take the citizens, that you have something. Until the moment we have city councils that they understood that they need to do participation. We have other city councils that they have understood that they need technology in the city. We don't have too much examples of city councils that they understand both, and these both together work better. No, it's not something that we need. It's not that you think in one way or you think in the other. No, together is when you are working right.
Just to add a little something to what Pablo was saying, I think we are in a moment, and I used the example of sidewalks in Toronto, this city promoted basically by Google. The model we are proposing is an alternative that uses public data, so that means we cannot lose the sovereignty of our data, even public bodies, even citizens. So we need citizens to inform us, to be producers also of this data, because otherwise every city is going to be sidewalks and Toronto.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I have sort of a follow-up question about the Barcelona project. With urban planning and community outreach, one of the biggest problems is always around reaching people. How do you actually reach people to get that feedback? And then on top of that, how do you make sure that that feedback is not biased? You know, as we all know, looking at reviews online, oftentimes you will get people who either love it or people who hate it, but oftentimes it's people in the middle that are most needed in these things. So I'm wondering what sort of technological interventions or technologies or strategies you use to reach people, and then how did you validate that it wasn't just extreme opinions on either end of the spectrum, but also the middle of the spectrum as well?
So in this case, usually the most relevant result of a participatory process is not that you ask a direct question and you obtain a clean answer that you're going to follow. So this is participation is that we need to understand which is the mood. We need to understand if in general terms we are agree in some ideas of the regulation. It's not tell me how I need to do the city and I will do as you tell me, no? So it's not this direct action, this idea of participatory process. It's more, we need to understand if the neighbors of a place of the city, they are agree with the new law, which are these moments that how we explain to them. So we need to communicate a law to them and they need to understand. And then we need to do this also in a process, no? And then they can answer us which are the parts that they are more agree, no so agree. So it's not an open question, no? Where everyone can, I don't know, try to influence, no? in a side, no? The decisions.
Just to summarize a little bit the process we follow. Basically, we have 2 moments of participation. The first one was workshop with citizens, and that means that to make that, we need to understand which are the relevant stakeholders in this place, and that means a lot of previous work or understand who are the relevant people to ask the question, so that's previous work. Then we make these workshops with them and we ask these general questions. And of course, we open this digital platform that we have in Barcelona that we hope that in the future is going to enable to involve citizens that maybe don't have the time to participate, to go to these more physical or more vivencial processes. So we have both moments. And then, of course, we have the public consultation, which is also an important moment in participation. And in this case, we have a team that especially trained neighbors to be able to make a legal document saying what were the points they do not agree in the plan. So we try at every moment to involve them. It's not difficult, it's not easy, it's difficult. But we need to generate these places to make these conversations. Politicals need to do better, planners we need to do better, and citizens, they will learn to do better, but we need to keep on going.
Thank you.
I don't know if you heard about the new Italian government, which is 3 days old. And actually, this 5 Stars movement, they have this digital platform where people vote. And through the platform, they decide to be the new government or not to be part of it. And 50,000 people voted, representing the entire Italy somehow. And what do you think about it? Because the point is with this Rousseau platform is exactly what you described. So, straight question, straight answer, but nothing in between, What do you think?
Of course, 5,000 or 50,000 is not representative. Of course, you need to understand which is the context. This is like a survey. So in a survey, you need to know and understand which is the amount of population represented in this question, no? And then you need to understand if you are not doing this reflection, that's in a common survey, no? That you know that that should be representative, then you are doing a biased interpretation of these results of this participation. So I think it's so easy, so applying the usual methodologies. The problem is when we forget that in this case, this methodology doesn't apply here, and I think that here they apply, So when we have a lot of answers, a lot of participation, we are able to arrive far because we have more precise answer, with more population, with more segments. If I don't have so many population, then I have general answers.
Thank you. Anyone else? So while you're thinking, I have 2 questions to Bjorn and Tor. I'm interested in the personal story of 2 designers who came to work together on this project. How did you actually come to work on that project, and what was the process? And my second question that you mentioned briefly, you mentioned that this is actually a product. So I wonder how do you distinguish between the original product, Amazon Echo, and your product, and whether you fall into the trap of Amazon Echo by creating this product, actually.
So with the first question, it is a rather personal story, actually, because I think we would never have bought a Google Home or Alexa. We're not that type of geeky tech guy, but it happened that I won a what's it called, competition called the Google I/O AI experiment with an older project called the Objectifier, which was also about making a playful device that lets you play with IoT in a more fun and well, explorative way with AI. And at that event, they gave us a Google Home. And that, of course, with that intention of showing a different way of using AI, felt a little bit like a stab in my back. But took it home anyways and thought, let's see it as a research project and see how it feels to actually live with one of these devices. And I think a lot of that frustration and experience with these devices, especially because it was early on in the beta version, started to evoke some of these alternative thoughts. So that's kind of how it all started, I guess. And we both think a lot about, well, AI in the home and how AI lives within a, yeah, in a very personal space, which is your bedroom or your kitchen, and it's getting everywhere. The second one. Yeah.
Can you repeat the second question?
Yeah, so the question was, you mentioned that you actually created a product and you struggle with the distinction between a product and the original product, which is the Amazon Echo. And so I was wondering if you can make this distinction, and how do you feel about falling into the trap of traditional industrial products with this more artistic-oriented project?
So, Project Alias have been a way for me and Björn, like a medium to communicate thoughts. And we are both very inspired by speculative design, where we are on the edge of what is real and what is not real. And yeah, Project Alias is in this weird gray area where we don't want to talk about it as a product, but we actually want it to be perceived as a product. You know, if that makes sense. Because that is what gives reactions. The amount of comments online from the articles who covered it and presented it as a product have given so many interesting discussions where we really start to learn about what it is we have created. And that discussion, or those discussions that have appeared so many places online is, I think, one of the goals for us to create it in the first place. And yeah, and the same with this Starts Prize. The artistic exploration for us has been the perfect acknowledgement that somebody understood what we were trying to do. So thanks for that.
We don't have more time, so let's give one more round of applause to these extraordinary projects.